Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I'm Miss Lisa, and this is my YouTube channel for all things math and science. And this playlist is probably my favorite because in this one I show you how to really get the most out of your TI-84 graphing calculator. Now, a lot of the things I show you can do on TI-82s and 3s too, so don't let the title fool you. Give it a try if you've got one of those. I do. I keep it at school. I'm a public school teacher. And I keep my 83 at school on my desk. Anyway, so what we're going to be doing today is super important. It's called a quadratic regression. And if you haven't learned how to do a linear regression, I have a couple of videos already on the playlist about that. I did one for Algebra 1 and I did one for Algebra 2. So you can go watch those and make sure you understand them and then come back. Or you can just dive on in and see if you can figure out this. So what we're doing is quadratic equations. And you know, quadratic equations make a U shape. Now, if you are following along with this book, it's McDougal Littell, Algebra 2 from 2004. I like it better than, I have their new edition, but I like the old edition better. To me, it's just organized better. So, you know, everybody has their own favorite math books, right? I'm not the only one, right? Anyway, okay, so back in the 80s when I had to do this, back before the TI-84 graphing calculator, these problems were a big old pain because you had to take your points, put it into an equation, and algebra tried to make it easier by having alternate forms besides just the regular y equals to make it a little bit easier. This one's vertex form, that one's intercept form, and they help a little bit, but it's still just a big old pain. And now we have reached the 2020s, and life is beautiful because we have the TI-84 graphing calculator, and we can use it to do all these problems. Now, the way the book presents it is if you had scientific data, you could plot your points and your calculator could find the best fitting line. In reality, if you have scientific data, you're probably going to put it in the computer. But when I teach physics to homeschoolers, we don't have, everybody with their own laptop. So we do use our TI-84 graphing calculators to do this. But this year, like teaching public school, we haven't done this at all. So it's not that, I teach science in public school. So it's not that useful for science. It's more useful to cheat in math. Now, it's not really cheating because they let you use your calculator. So let me show you an example problem of how to use it for math. Okay, right here it says, write this equation in standard form, and they give me 3 points. I can tell these 3 points to my calculator, and bada bing, bada boom, it will tell me the equation. And oh, that is so much easier than what we did in the 80s. All right, so I'm going to turn this on. That's not where I want to be, so I'm going to do second mode to quit out of there. Now I'm on my regular first math screen. I got a glare there, I'll move it up. All right, so now what I want to do is I'll put in the data, my points. So I hit that button that says stat, and I hit enter for edit because that's what I want to do. And I already have some numbers here. You might too. If not, don't worry about this step. But if you do, you have to delete those numbers out. And I use that button right there, del, for delete. And I just put delete and it deletes it. Now you have to be careful. Don't get your cursor up here and hit delete, or else it will delete the whole column. And I have kids do that every year. But you can restore it. You do it on that first screen where it was edit. It's got a restore button where you can straighten it out. But it's easier to not mess it up in the first place. All right, so I'm going to delete these, delete. I have to say delete like I'm a Dalek. So, it's more fun with sound effects or pretending you're a Dalek, one or the other. All right, which I guess he'd be saying exterminate. Exterminate. Oh no, I'd have to go back and watch it. Okay, so now it's all cleared out and I can put in my data. So I have 3 points. Of these 3 points, let me lean over and get a pencil. Sorry, didn't mean to make you car sick there. Of my 3 points, remember they're in alphabetical orders. X, Y, X, Y, X, Y. I remember being like, how do you know which one's X and which one's Y? It's alphabetical order. So what I'm going to do in my first column, I'm going to put all my X's. So it's -1. and I type in -1, and it's on the bottom here. I hit enter, and it bounces it up there. -1, 0, and 3 are my x's. Now I arrow over, and I'm going to put in my y's, and they're 5, 3, and 9. Okay, so there are my points. Now I go back and hit stat again, and this time I want to calculate. See right there where it says setup editor? That'll fix if you delete a column on accident. All right, so I'm going to go over to calculate, and you should have in the past done linear regression. Now we're going to do a quadratic regression. So I go down to quad reg, and I hit enter, or you can put number 5, and it asks me, do I want to use list 1 and 2 for my x's and y's? Why, yes, I do. Thank you very much. And I go down to calculate, and I hit enter, and it tells me the answer. And it says that in this form of ax squared plus bx plus c, that a is 1, b is -1, and c is 3. Now what that r is it's telling me how closely these points fit a parabola. And the closer it is to 1, the better it is. So it's 1, so that's telling me that my points are a parabola. So I go over and I check my answers, number 28, and so it's 1, -1, 3, 1, -1, 3, because you know those are understood. Go back to 28. So there's an understood 1 there, a -1 there, and a 3 here. Now I could graph it. I could go over to y equals, and I was doing plots before, but we could do that too. We'll leave that alone. I can put in my equation that it told me, and it was x squared. So I'd use this button for x, that button for squared, x squared minus x, and then what was my last term? It was 3, plus 3. Okay, so I can graph it, and there are my points, and it should draw me my line through it, and there goes my line. Yay! Isn't that fun? It's almost like magic, and so much easier than the 80s. Now, say, what if you were supposed to find more information about that? You could always, then once you have your line, you could go to second trace where it's calculate, and you can find once you have that equation, you could find the zeros where it crosses the x-axis. You can find the minimum, the maximum. You could find intersects, so some calculus stuff down there, some derivatives and stuff. So there's a lot more stuff you can find using your calculator. But just this is what I love, that you can just take these 3 points and not do all that math we did in the 80s. And so I even wrote in here somewhere, this is much easier on your calculator. It's much easier than doing that, because you have to remember those formulas, and then if they didn't want it in this form, they wanted it in standard form, then you've got to multiply all that out, gather up your terms, get it in standard form. This is just so much easier. So, but if you were doing a problem like this in college and your teacher wanted you to show your work, you can use this to check it and make sure you do it right, and then go back and do it 1983 style. All right? So math is great. Come back and we'll learn something else to do fun in our calculator.